To put it lightly, Battle for Azeroth was a rather controversial expansion. To put it honestly, BFA sucked really badly. So I have a lot of things I think Blizzard can do better, so here is a list of just a couple things that I'm looking forward to in Shadowlands and beyond. The future! As of the recording of this video, Shadowlands is still in alpha, and many aspects of the game's design are a bit in flux. There are some key items that I'm hoping for in this upcoming expansion though, so let's start this list off with something that almost everyone seems to agree on: armor sets. By armor sets, I actually mean more than just raid tier sets. While I strongly believe tier sets have an incredibly valuable place in the game, I find it a bit short-sighted to stop there. In fact, one of the many arguments Blizzard has against tier sets is the difficulty with coming up with new and interesting bonuses on such a consistent basis. This is a design problem I can sympathize with, and I'll touch on a couple different options, though I'd like to dedicate an entire video to further discuss some more deeper possibilities here. Tier sets provide a level of identity and accomplishment to the player that is unique to their class. The current BFA model doesn't support class or spec identity in any way. Let's just be honest, there is no way in any fantasy setting that a mage, a warlock, and a priest would all be outfitted in the same armor. I don't want to dive too deep into tier sets, since anybody who's ever played the game before BFA understands how the system works, and the pros and cons to it. However, armor sets don't have to stop at raiding. For example, Vanilla WoW and the Burning Crusade implemented dungeon sets. At the time, these were intended to be smaller, stepping stone increases before entering the raid setting. Overall, the concept of this worked great, even though some of the set bonuses in vanilla dungeons really suck. TBC, however, seemed to solve this problem, and dungeon sets became an incredibly valuable asset to those who viewed dungeons as their endgame, and for raiders who were preparing for more. Then in Wrath, they took that a step further, and oh yeah, never mind, they actually just got rid of them. Cool. In a world of Mythic Plus being so popular, and an endgame in and of itself, dungeon armor sets seem like an obvious choice with benefits clearly crafted for that playstyle. However, I'd like to see even another type of set into the game that I'll just call the world sets. Despite many of my issues with WoW Legion and the class order hall system, the idea behind the class world PvE sets was actually pretty cool, providing unique benefits such as out-of-combat regeneration and reduction in damage under certain health thresholds. While these items could have been more useful in other forms of content, they were clearly designed around the player in the open world. Take that premise and expand it with the bonuses that we saw in gear in Nazjatar and Mechagon, and you have something really cool on your hands. Alright, genuine question. Why the hell was Master Looter removed from the game? This one genuinely bothers me, as it's far more than just Blizzard removing a loot option. First off, Master Loot is arguably the best option, especially considering that most successful high-end raiders would agree with the claim that a good loot council is the best gearing system in terms of focusing on a guild's progression. Despite warnings and restrictions placed upon loot council during Warlords of Draenor, good and fair restrictions, mind you, Blizzard decided that that wasn't enough. You see, in WoD, you had to have 80% of your raid be in the same guild in order for Master Looter to even be selectable. And if it was enabled, the entire raid received a message indicating as such. The possibility of ninja looting was mitigated so hard by this change, I genuinely stopped ever hearing about it. Despite that, the part that bothers me the most is the logic and reasoning behind this removal. For example, one of the initial reasons behind the removal of Master Loot was to prevent split runs in the cutting-edge raid scene. When later pressed about the fact that guilds had already figured out a way around this, Ian denied that that was the reason at all. Funny enough, removing Master Loot only ended up requiring split runs, even more, which we've seen in every World First race each tier in BFA. In the world of Pugs, sure. Personal loot works as a Wild West solution in a Wild West environment. Yet in an organized guild setting, applying a reward structure of chaos and a lack of control is innately at odds with the coordination and organization of a guild environment. Something many guilds have seen and experienced is that personal loot also incentivizes self-interest over the team as a whole. Understandably, a level of selfishness is okay, yet someone who plays recreational baseball to receive credit rather than win is a bad teammate that most teams would happily remove, and that's even in a casual setting. Encouraging this behavior has further reduced the community feel of modern WoW, and encourages players to fend for themselves rather than assist the team. So far, the justification for the removal of Master Looter has been flawed in theory, flawed in principle, and has proven not to work in practice throughout the entirety of BFA. At this point, even as dumb as this sounds, I'd even just be happy if they allowed Master Loot for Mythic rating only. You know what? No, screw that. It needs to be in the game. You seriously just need to do this, Blizzard. I haven't found a good excuse for why it's removed.
Contrary to some of the speculation, this change wasn't made to stop or to curb high-end split rating. That's something we want to do. We're not sad that this change might have some impact on it. Personal loot, the advantages it has, aside from just general consistency throughout the game world, there's more personal agency. There's more control as an individual over your fate.
So I have a pretty big problem with heirloom gear as it currently stands. I enjoy the experience increase that it provides, and I do think it's a good reward. The thing I hate, though, is that the bonus is tied to individual pieces of armor with extremely powerful stats. Leveling from 1 to 110 currently isn't actually that bad to me. However, my favorite part about leveling is through the dungeons. Despite that, wearing heirlooms in dungeons completely cripples the experience as you hit for 3 times the amount the game is expecting you to. Dungeon leveling especially is horrendously boring, as you steamroll over everything without even looking at your screen. Also, almost all the rewards you get from boss drops and the dungeon bag are immediately vendor trash, since your heirloom pieces will just always be more powerful. On top of that, if you're a new player who doesn't have heirloom gear but enjoys dungeons, don't expect to even have to play. Your existence in that dungeon is insignificant, and you will very much feel that. I've had over a handful of friends try playing the game between Legion and BFA, and the key reason they ended up stopping was that their dungeon experience leveling up was too dull compared to other MMOs. Even Final Fantasy XIV leveling dungeons are incredibly easy, but you do at least have to be awake to participate in them. So, where's the solution here? It's actually easy. Tie all of the experience benefits into a single item, like a ring or a trinket, or instead to a buff that's on that character. This would allow you to keep your experience gains while also being able to unlock and equip new armor during the level up process. Considering WoW is an RPG and you don't actually equip new armor for the first 110 levels is rather insane. If you coupled this change with the new leveling system in Shadowlands, people with the XP bonus would still be able to find it meaningful and rewarding while also being able to feel like they're receiving consistent upgrades along the way. Blizzard mentioned at BlizzCon that a common leveling complaint was how far apart rewards felt. Classic WoW proves how addicting this treadmill can be with talent points, but I also believe that part of the gameplay loop with Classic also ties into the gear you continually obtain. The goal here isn't to make leveling take longer or to just make you weaker, but it's to allow you the opportunity to actually receive rewards for the activities you're doing as you level up in Azeroth. I don't have an entire bias against the WoW in-game shop existing. However, the current implementation of it is completely ridiculous. Mounts and mini-pets cost an insane amount of money when you consider you're spending $25 for a single model in a video game. I remember vividly the outrage of when the Celestial Steed was introduced. $25 for a reskinned Invincible model. Even Total Biscuit himself went off on his podcast Blue Please, arguing how this had set a terrible precedent for Blizzard to add more mounts to the store that would normally be in-game.
Is he sitting on a dumb-looking impractical horse that he bought with real money? A reskin that he willingly sat in a queue for hours in order to purchase with actual cash? If yes, then there is no need to invite that player. That retarded horse will tell you all you need to know about potential PUG members in an incredibly efficient manner.
Blizzard continues to add mounts and mini-pets at a steep price, and every time it happens, there's still backlash to this very day. I mainly hear the argument in favor of mounts being in the shop by claiming either, well, Blizzard needs to make money somehow in order to continually develop WoW, or by hearing that, well, mounts aren't content anyway, so Blizzard isn't cutting content. To the first point, isn't that what the subscription is for? I mean, it's not just a sub you pay for, by the way, but WoW is also a full-priced box game. I don't mind Guild Wars 2's InGame Shop, partly because it's better and offers way more value for cheaper, but also because there's no sub fee. The argument that they need the continual income actually works here, but not for WoW, or not nearly as much as people give it credit for. As for the second argument about mounts not really being content and thus then not cut content, this is pretty short-sighted. Mounts may not be content in and of themselves, but they are an excellent catalyst for content. Look at every raid mount ever and see how desirable they are. Raiding is the content, and the mount is the catalyst for said content, or at least one of them. I'm not going to claim that every mount should be like the Lucid Nightmare mount. That was awesome, but to expect that level of detail regularly would be unrealistic. So let's offer a simple and cost-effective solution. Here's just one, and I'm sure others could come up with good ideas as well. Let's introduce a mount equivalent NPC to something like Hemet Nessingwary. A new mount could be introduced to the game, and this NPC makes a mention of how they've heard reports of a spectral horse wandering around places of power in Kalimdor. Perhaps now, this mount is part of the loot table for any raids that are already existing within the continent of Kalimdor. Killing bosses in these legacy raids offers a chance for the mount to drop. This is an overly simplified option, but one that would cost an incredibly minimal amount to implement, yet also gives players a reason to log in and actually engage to earn this reward. Also, since Blizzard loves to see user engagement rates, this would get people to log in and engage, and etc, etc. Really quickly before I get off the cash shop though, the prices of these services also in the shop are absolutely insane and need to be addressed. The fact that it still costs $25 US, what? To server transfer a character is bonkers. $25 for an automated process that costs the company fractions of a penny in computation expense for their servers to make a database adjustment. Holy cow, what a profit! If you consider the faction change as well, that's $30 for that separate service. So if you want to move servers and faction change, you've got to spend a nice $55 to do so. I mean, no big deal, that's just the cost of a new AAA video game release. Also, the fact that no bulk option exists blows my mind. How have we not been offered the ability to move multiple characters and faction change them for a reduced cost? MMOs like Rift used to not even charge you for your first server transfer, and Guild Wars 2 server transfers cost less than $25, and you get to move all of your characters for that one fee, no additional cost. If you want to move 5 characters and faction change them in WoW though, you're looking at a car payment, and that's not a joke. This is insane. The fact Blizzard still charges this because, I mean, well, you the player don't have a choice, it doesn't make it any less ridiculous, and it needs to be looked at. Wow, I had actually way more that I also still want to talk about. I just need to wrap this up for right now so I can get the video out. If you want to see another video like this about things I'm hoping for in Shadowlands and beyond, then please let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you want to actually produce in this conversation and let me know some of the things that you like or are hoping for in Shadowlands and onward, throw that down there as well. Like the video, hit the thumbs up button, please, it helps, you know the deal. Subscribe if you want to see more, and if you don't subscribe, then I know that you hate me, and that is fair, I can understand. Without further ado though, you've been here long enough, so thank you. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoy, bye-bye.